Hi, welcome back. Thank you for always coming back to watch my videos. Kindly subscribe, watch and like. Today we are going to continue with different purchasing situation. Number one, we dealt with auction. Number two, we dealt with purchasing a new home. Today we are going to deal with purchasing an apartment or a flat. Purchasing an apartment or a flat. So when you're purchasing an apartment or a flat, make sure, number one, that there's an agreement. Don't ever buy or purchase anything without an agreement. You know, like we say, there's evidence that you entered into that transaction. So make sure there's a written agreement of the purchase of for the purchase of that apartment. So an agreement is very important. So when you're buying an apartment or a flat, you can either buy an apartment which has already been built or an off plan. For an apartment which has already been built, make sure that you are given a certificate of occupation. This is a certificate that is given by the local authorities, and it shows that that apartment is fit for occupation, or that building is fit for occupation. Number two, make sure you are given a certificate of practical completion. Certificate of practical completion. This is a certificate given by the architect to show that that building has been built according to the plan. That building has been built according to the plan. Then, if there was a need for change of user, make sure there is a change of use. If that parcel of land was agricultural, make sure there is a change of use from agricultural to residential or to commercial, or from single dwelling to multiple dwelling. Yes, so make sure there's a change of user. Also that NEMA has given the approval. There's a NEMA approval. And make sure that the developer have complied with that county's bylaw, of the authority's bylaws. There are some bylaws that require you to establish a solar system, etc. So make sure they have complied with the bylaws. So that is purchasing an apartment that is already built. So we come to purchasing an off-plan apartment, and we are like I said, off-plan is where you are investing in an apartment which is not there. It has not yet been built. You are investing in something that is not there. You are investing in an apartment on promise and reliance that that apartment will be built and you'll be given your apartment. So when you are dealing with an off-plan, make sure that you have seen the approval, that the construction of that building has been approved, or the plans have been approved by the local authorities. Change of user, if it is necessary, if that parcel of land is agricultural, make sure there's a change of user from agricultural to residential or to commercial, from single dwelling to multiple dwelling, etc. Make sure that NEMA has approved the construction of that building. You don't want a situation where that building can be demolished because it may harm the environment. So make sure there's NEMA approval, and make sure there's a written agreement. When you enter into an agreement, you'll be required to pay a specific amount of money as the construction goes on. When you finish payment, the building has been built and you want to be issued with your apartment, make sure you are given with a certificate of occupation. This is a certificate issued by the local authority that that building or that apartment is fit for occupation. Number two, certificate of practical completion issued by the architect to show that that building has been built according to the plan. Then in the contract, there's something called defect liability period. Defect liability period. This period is when a developer can rectify the defect. This is when the developer can rectify the defect. So in this period, you are allowed to inspect the property or the apartment, and if you see any defect, the developer will rectify. The defect liability period is usually for 6 months or more, and or as agreed So it is for 6 months or more and or as agreed. And the defect liability period is pegged on the issuance of the certificate of practical completion. When that architect gives the certificate of practical completion, that is when the defect liability period starts running. So in the agreement, make sure you are informed when that certificate will be issued, because that is when time starts running. And within that time, make sure that you are allowed to inspect the property so that you can identify the defect. Within that period, any defect the developer will rectify. When the period expires, then any defect will be on you. So make sure you inspect that property, identify any defect so that they can rectify. So that is defect liability period. Okay? So, and make sure that they have complied with the bylaws of the authorities. There are some bylaws that require developer to put a solar system, other require other things. So make sure they have complied with the bylaws. So the unique thing about buying an apartment or a flat is that you share, there are common areas that are shared. There are common areas that are shared. It is the staircase, the lift, there is the swimming pool, gym, playground. So there is a you share those common areas. And when you buy an apartment, each house is considered as a unit. So you'll be given 1 unit, or if you buy 2 houses, it will be 2 units. So each house is considered as a unit. Each apartment will be considered as a unit. So you'll be given 1 unit. So you own that 1 unit. How do you own common areas? How are common areas owned? So when of course buying an apartment, there's a managing company. A company is formed, or a corporation is formed. When that company is formed, it is formed so that it can control and manage this property and also the common areas. So it will be the manager of this property, these apartments, and the common areas. So in this company, each and every owner of that unit must have a share in the company. So if you have 1 unit, you have 1 share in the company. Okay, I hope you understand it. If you have bought an apartment, 1 apartment, that is the 1 unit, then you must have a 1 unit, 1 share in the company, 1 share in the company. So that is how you own the property. So that is how you own the common area. So the common area are owned by that share. If you have a share, then you have an interest in the common areas. So this managing company, it is formed so that it can control and manage the property and the common areas. It is a non-profit company. It is a non-profit company, and it owns the reversionary interest. It owns the reversionary interest. So if you have bought an apartment, that is 1 unit, and you have a share in this company, and you want to sell, you have to sell that unit plus the share. You can't sell an apartment and retain the share. You have to sell them at the same time. You have to sell the apartment and the share in that company. Okay? You have to sell the apartment, that is 1 unit, and your share in the company. They go hand in hand. Yes. So when you have complied, you have paid the money, you have a share in the company, then you are going to be given a sectional title. We call it sectional property title. This title is leasehold, and it is for a specified period of time. It is leasehold, and it is for a specified period of time. Maybe 40 years, 30 years. So it is for a specified period of time. So when you are, now you have the title, you have the apartment, you have 1 share in the company. So these are some of the documents that are very important that you need to have. The document that you need to have: number 1, make sure you have an agreement, that is the purchase agreement. Purchase agreement. It is very important to have an agreement, because there will be evidentiary evidence. There will be evidence that you entered into a transaction, you bought this parcel of land and the amount of money you paid. Number 2, make sure there's a management agreement, or you have at least a management agreement or a proposed management agreement. This is the agreement of the company, the formation and everything. Then make sure you have a recreational agreement or a proposed recreation agreement where if there's like a gym or a swimming pool, how they'll be managed and how they'll be used, how they can even be used by people who do not own the apartment, or properties which can be used which are not in the common areas, or some recreation which are not in the common area, how you can use them. So that is a recreational agreement. Then make sure you have a bylaw. The company must have bylaws. So make sure you have a copy of the bylaw or the proposed bylaws. Then make sure you have the lease, the lease of that parcel of land, or the title of that parcel of land. At least you have that title of that lease, so that you can also conduct your due diligence. You can do a search to see whether there is a charge on that property, to see whether there is any encumbrance on that property. If there is a charge, they have to inform you the amount of the charge, the amount of money, how much they are paying, and all that. So make sure you have a copy of the title, a copy of the title, or the leasehold title, or the title. It can also be freehold. Make sure at least you have a copy of that title. Also, make sure you have they have given you your title, your sectional property title. And that title, like I said, it is leasehold. You own that property for a specified period of time. Maybe 20, 30, 40 years. So it is for a specified period of time. 40 years or okay, it can be for a specified period of time. So when you're buying an apartment, there will always be drawbacks, especially when we are buying off plan. There is that fear of buying an off plan. Then there is if it is an off plan, like we said before, there is a brochure that shows how the property will be built. It has so many expectations, and whatever you see, it might not be what you get. But yes, so yes, I think that is it for the buying an apartment or a flat. Buying an apartment or a flat. Thank you so much for watching. Kindly subscribe if you're new here. Kindly subscribe and welcome. Thank you so much. Let's meet next.